Okay. Shalom, our dearest brothers. It's a new Torah. It's a new Torah, Tinyana Zion. A new Torah, a new Torah. And it's amazing this time that we're joining groups around the world. There's been a number of projects of learning Likutei Moharan all around the world. And until now, many of them were learning different particular Torahs. And now there's a unification, and that many, many groups are joining together the Siyata D'Shmaya. Thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands, B'ezrat Hashem, millions of human beings, billions of Siyata D'Shmaya, learning the Torah of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov and growing closer to God, growing closer to themselves, growing closer to other human beings, learning these Torahs, and therefore, with tremendous simcha in our heart, I thank of Nachman Fried, of Kol Torah's Chaim, of Moti Gatli, of Latal B'Torah, I thank all of the Chevra here and all the Chevra around the world that are with us, ready to learn these Torahs and ready to grow close to God together. And therefore, in the beginning of a journey like this, we say, Baruch Shechiyanu v'kiyamanu v'yigianu l'azman hazeh. Hashem, thank you for bringing us to this day. And L'shem yichud kudsha b'richu shchinte, that all of our learning should be to unify God, who is beyond all the worlds, and that God should unify with us here in the world. And therefore, B'siyata D'Shmaya, we're going to be beginning this Torah, and it's Torah Zayin Tinyana. And we welcome our friends around the world learning with us. Always nice when you share with us where you're learning from in our global Bible studies group, B'siyata D'Shmaya. Feel free to ask questions. We'll do our best to be able to address them. B'siyata D'Shmaya. It's good to start with brachas. So we're beginning this journey. So if everybody has the spot in the Torah Zayin Tinyana, there's an amazing introductory line to this Torah. What's your bar mitzvah? Torah Zayin Tinyana. In the second book, Torah Zayin. It's a long Torah. We're going to be on this Torah for a while, my friends. And just like Sam Aleph, we went on a journey together. We're going to be going on a journey together here. And this is a journey wherever you think SpaceX will take you. This is going to be a much farther reaching journey. And I'm looking forward to going on this journey together, B'siyata D'Shmaya, with the help of God.
Miketz, right?
Vayihi miketz shenasayim yomim, uparo choylem. And it was at the end of 2 years of days. Oh, big pickup. It was at the end of 2 years of days. And it's interesting that the hostages just said this. It was at the end exactly of 2 years worth of days. And Yosef HaTzadik, who was in the pit, who was in the dungeons of ancient Egypt. So Yosef HaTzadik, exactly at that point, at the end of 2 years of days, so Joseph is coming out. And in 1 second, he went from the darkest pits of Egypt all the way to standing in front of Parai and ultimately becoming the second in command, the viceroy of Egypt, and essentially the most powerful human being in the entire world. And that's why never give up hope. Never give up hope. To know that God is with us and God is with human beings. And even if you feel that you're in the deepest places of despair, God forbid, inside, whether it's job, whether it's emotional, psychological, to know that you can get out of anything. Physical. You could break out of anything. And Pharaoh has a dream, and that dream opens up an entire universe. So it's interesting that Rebbe Nachman quotes that as the introductory line of this new Torah. And seemingly, he's going to get back to this later. But he doesn't seem to mention in the beginning. So what do we have so far? We have the end of 2 years of days, and we have Pharaoh having dreams. And then the Rebbe begins the Torah, and he begins with Isaiah 49. And the prophet says, Ki mirachamam yenahagem, for their merciful one will lead them. Tinyona, Zion. So what is the context of this passage? Because this is the opening line of the entire Torah. Ki merachamam yenahagem, for their merciful one will lead them. So really, in order to understand this, I wanted to see Isaiah with the Chevrier and be able to understand the context of Rabbi Isaiah and what he's speaking about here. So essentially, chapter 49 in Isaiah, and we welcome to all of our friends that are with us, as we're going to now plunge into Isaiah. Oh, actually, can I see that note? One of the guys showed up today. He said, oh, we love Isaiah 53 also. Wonderful, thank you. Isaiah 53, Avdi. Now, one of the things that you need to know is that Isaiah speaks about Avdi also in Isaiah 49. And he says that Avdi is Yisrael. He makes that very clear. V'yomer li Avdi, to me Avdi, my servant, Ata Yisrael, is the nation of Israel. So if you want to understand who Avdi is, you have to always go and see who the very Rabbi Isaiah is speaking about Avdi, what he says about Avdi. And he constantly references that Avdi is the nation of Israel. That's a very, very important point to take note of. But let's begin from just the beginning of Yeshayahu 49. So the Abarbanel points out that this whole chapter is really the transition from Yeshayahu Hanavi, Isaiah the prophet, speaking about the Babylonian exile and being liberated from the Babylonian exile, and then transitioning to the ultimate redemption of the Jewish people, essentially going to the Messianic unfolding. It's amazing in Yeshiva that we don't learn enough math. Just Isaiah is talking about coming from the end of the Babylonian exile and now transitioning to the Messianic redemption. That sounds pretty good. Like, I'd like to be talking about that. And essentially, Yeshayahu begins this chapter, Shimu iyim Elai. V'hikshivu le'umim mirachok, Hashem nibetin karani, nime'ei imi, his kirshani. That Yeshayahu says, I was already chosen from my mother's womb. I was destined for this prophecy.
Don't we say that somewhere? We read that somewhere.
Nibetin karani. I feel like we do also. I was destined, he said, from my mother's womb, that I would carry forth this prophecy. And Yeshayahu was speaking about how I was not only here to tell you about the redemption of the Babylonian exile, and I'm not only here to try to get you guys to do tshuva, because I was not successful. And ultimately, Yeshayahu was assassinated. Did you know that? Like King Menashe. That's not cool.
The back king.
That's right. He was assassinated.
Oh, is that the Menashe from? Was that the Menashe? Is the descendant of Menashe? He came from Shem.
King Menashe.
That's like or Yaakov saw like in his Ruach HaKodesh, no? When he was blessing for Menashe.
That there would be a king Menashe who got people to serve Avodah Zarah, and even though in the end he said, if you understood how difficult this was, and when the Amoraim were talking about making drushes about the evil, wicked King Menashe, and King Menashe came to him in a dream, and he said, if you were living in my time, you would have held on to my Bekesha to come worship idols with me. You understand how difficult it was? How difficult it was? So King Menashe had assassinated Yeshayahu HaNavi. But Yeshayahu was pointing out that my main mission, of course I was here to try to tell you to do tshuva, but my main mission, the main purpose of why I'm here, was to tell you about the ultimate redemption of the Jewish people. The ultimate redemption of Mashiach, and that's why so much of Yeshayahu is just packed with messianic unfoldings. And this chapter is really this transition coming of understanding that all of the nations in the world will see the stature of who the Jews are in their most beautiful form in the end of days. Even though they're going to be such a downtrodden people and you're going to be a despised people, as we seem to see. But in the end, you will see that Israel will once again be seen as the beautiful people that they are. Asher B'cha Espar, like we spoke a lot about in Isaiah 53, which begins really in Isaiah 52, because the pericope begins in 52, as we spoke about during that time. And as the chapter goes on, so it begins the mandate of the Jewish people, which begins really in verse 6, which starts with Yomer Nokel Miyoischa Li Eved, that you're my Eved Lahakim Es Shiftei Yaakov, that you are here to lift up my people, meaning Isaiah was here to both lift up the Jewish people, but look at this. But that's not all. Unesaticha la'orgoyim. And here we see, this is part of the mandate now coming into its brilliance, is that the Jewish nation is being told by Yeshayahu, by Isaiah, that you have a mission also to be a light to the nations of the world. Not only to lift up the Jewish nation and get Klal Yisrael to do tshuva and bring everybody back and help to make Chizzuk for Shabbos project and Tefillin project, but bring back all the sparks. David Shalom. Bring back all the sparks. Bring back all of humanity and help humanity to see that they have a God who loves them. And therefore the real mandate of the Jewish people is to be the Or Lagoy, the light to the nations. Lios Yeshuasi ad Ketsei Haaretz. What a beautiful line. That my Yeshua, my salvation, may extend to the ends of the earth. And the Radak says that this is speaking about the period after Gog and Magog. After the war of Gog and Magog, before Mashiach, that the nations will see the salvation of Eretz Yisrael and the Jewish nation, and they'll recognize Hashem, and this salvation will spread to the far ends of the earth. Rashi says the world's going to rejoice from one end of the world to the other. They're going to see the downfall of Bavel. The great Bavel is going to fall, and on a deeper sense they're going to see that all of the wickedness of the world has gone. That Kol Rishus Haaretz Ka'oshen Tichle will go up like smoke and dissipate once and for all. And then it's really shifting now to this time of hope. That essentially this despised and loathed people, Yisrael, will come back. Koyamar Hashem, Goyal Yisrael Kedoshai, Livizoi nefesh, Linesoev goy le'eved moishlim malachim yiru v'komu sar v'yishtachavu. Look at this. Laman Hashem, asher neman kadosh Yisrael, v'yivchareka. And says Hashem, the Redeemer of Eretz Yisrael, the Redeemer of the Jews, to the despised soul, to the despised people, Yisrael, to the one that was loathed by the nations, to the servant of rulers. Kings will see you and arise. That the same people that were so lowly and so despised, kings of the world will come and they will see the Jewish nation and they will say, this is a beautiful nation. But it will only go from that transition, Isaiah is prophesying on this, from a despised people that they'll see, and we see this also again in Isaiah 52 and 53. So much so that great ministers and officers will prostrate themselves because of Hashem. They see Hashem, the greatness that is you, who is faithful, and that they'll say what? Kadosh Yisrael v'yivchareka, that God has chosen you. Because you, Klal Yisrael, said Nasav and Ishmael, you chose God, and God has chosen you. And to be seen that there's a people, like we say, not the chosen people, the choosing people. That we have been loyal to you, Hashem, through the entire exile. And they'll see this, and they'll see that the Jewish nation is here to help shed this light to the world. The world has no idea what our Torah is all about. They have no idea. Most of the world thinks that the Torah is a bunch of YouTube or TikTok snippets of Talmudic quotes taken out of context. It's like, oh yeah, we know what your Torah is all about. They have no idea. The world has no idea. So they'll finally see the beauty of the Torah revealed once and for all. And they go, every line in the Navi, but every line is like a rich oasis. Koyamar Hashem, be'ez rotzen inisicha b'yom Yeshua azarticha, ve'etzarcha ve'etemcha libris am lahakim eretz lahanchil nachalei shememos. In a time of favor I answer you, and on a day of salvation I assist you. I'll protect you, and I'll make you the people of the covenant to restore the land. I'll bring back the land of Eretz Yisrael, which is an amazing thing, to be exiled for thousands of years. No nation has ever been taken for thousands of years. And it's amazing, people always like saying things. You know, that cup of coffee was promised to you 3,000 years ago. The whole conversation. It was promised to you 3,000 years ago. Well, yes, read the Torah. I don't know what the cup of coffee was. Though that tripod, that painting was promised to you 8,000 years ago. Not quite. But it's just a funny thing that the world has gone there. Most of those comments are for people that just haven't opened up the Torah. But if you open up the Torah, you realize that there is a covenant and there's a promise. And God keeps his promises. God's very good at keeping his promises. And it's a journey, it's a long journey that we're on. It's a long journey, to see things in very long format journey. So we're on that journey. Lamor, to say to the prisoners, Lasurim, say, it's time to go out. All those in darkness, come out. In the darkness of exile, come out. Higalo al derochem yiru b'chol Shefayim Mari'isam. And this is an amazing thing. Go, be revealed, go out from the darkness, and they're going to graze upon the roads and upon all the hilltops will be their pasture. It's time to come out. It's time to come back. It's time to now come and join this new messianic unfolding reality. It's time to come out. And then begins our pasuk. Lo yir'avu v'lo yitzma'u v'lo yakem shora v'shomesh. There will not be hunger, and they will not thirst. Heat and sun will not afflict them. There's going to be a time of great redemption happening. There will be the redemption. Ki merachamam yenagim. For their leader is a merciful one. God is merciful. The leader of the Jewish nation is merciful. So we're seeing a very interesting move here. Ve'al mabuei mayim yenahalen. That's so beautiful. And this merciful leader, what's the first thing that the merciful leader will lead them to? To streams of water. Ein mayim ela Torah. That you'll be led to streams of water. You'll be led to the Torah. You'll be led to green pastures. And this is the whole movement of coming out of Galus and the way the nations of the world will flip from the despised vision of what the Jewish people represent to then seeing the beauty and seeing what we really represent, which is really just to be those that are here to share God's Torah with the world. I was dancing last night back Nasa Sefer Torah in my community. Do you understand the thousands and thousands, men, women, children, on the streets? They blocked all the traffic, blocked off. It was like a 39 bus that was busy. They got caught in it, and one of the buses it was half an hour, that bus would just stop. You know that bus? It was the amount of happiness. I'm saying old men, 85 years old, dancing, backflips, nifla. Just that there's a new Torah that is now joining his friends with all the other Torah. A new Torah. A new Sefer Torah. That happiness. I was so schwitzed at the end. I was dancing and dancing and then my son and I were dancing and dancing. Simchas Torah. You know how much we love the Torah? Who dances with the books like the Jewish people? Who dances with their Torah? You come on Simchas Torah, we love the Torah. So the world doesn't know what we're into. The world, like the Navi is saying, sees the nation of Israel as a despised and lowly people. But in the end, they will see what we're really all about. And I think a lot of this is just the world seeing, finally, what the Torah is, what we represent. So this is what the Navi is speaking about. And because God is Ki merachamam yenahagem, that they have a merciful leader. Their leader is a merciful one. That's how Rebbe Nachman is beginning this whole thing. Ki merachamam yenahagem. For their merciful one will lead them. That we're going to be led out of the exile by the merciful leader. So this whole Torah is beginning Jewish leadership. Understanding what is Jewish leadership. First of all, what's God's leadership? How will God lead the nation of Israel and then ultimately the entire world towards goodness, towards blessing? What will that leadership look like? And the first step in understanding this is that it's merciful. It's filled with racham. It's filled with compassion. Filled with compassion. If I were to ask our friends around the world, what do you think is the most important trait in a leader? What would you say? Most important trait in a leader?
To be able to show that example, not just
lead by example. Is that the most important thing? What if the example is a bad example?
Right.
It'd be a bad leader. A bunch of people just apparently robbed the Louvre yesterday. The Louvre is probably the most famous museum in the entire world.
They didn't take Mona Lisa.
daytime.
A daytime heist.
Yeah.
You got stuff?
Yeah.
They got things that Napoleon gave his wives. Like, these are priceless items.
It was
That's
a
how
daytime.
the Mona Lisa became famous in the first place.
That's how somebody tried to steal it.
They stole the Mona Lisa, and then it was like on all the articles, the Mona Lisa stolen. It's like just some random painting in someone's house, and then from that it became like world famous. Because they're like, who stole the Mona Lisa?
Yeah, it's actually one of those stolen paintings. It's crazy.
So just appreciate that. That's not good leadership. I mean, they lead by example. Other thieves will think like they set a precedent. You can't steal. By the way, stealing is is forbidden. Forbidden.
Everybody knows.
Mamish. Yes, forbidden. all of France is basically in mourning right now. I'm not playing. Is that the French people feel like we've been robbed. The Louvre is like a very French identifying place. If anybody here is from France, maybe you'll share with us. Anybody here listening from France, from our friends around the world, how do you feel right now?
Unless you're one of the new French citizens.
The Louvre, the fact that the Louvre was robbed. We're talking about things that they have 1,000 diamonds on them, emeralds, things that belong to kings and queens that will take hundreds of years of like French culture and identity. So, first of all, stealing is totally forbidden, prohibited, and that goes for all peoples of the world. That's one of the 7 Noahide laws, and that it's forbidden to steal. That's right. The Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach is forbidden to steal, and it's a big problem. It's a big problem.
Maybe most important attribute of it could be to be well-rounded.
Well-rounded, balanced,
Covers everything.
But what about empathy?
empathy,
That's what
to feel.
basically.
Feel other people.
Yeah.
So we're going to see here is that Rebbe Nachman is pointing out, based on the pasuk in Yeshayahu, Ki mirachamam yenahagem, for their merciful one will lead them. Chaim, mi shehu rachamam. Now Rebbe Nachman is speaking. Somebody who is compassionate, hu yachol liyos manik, he is able to be a leader. What is Jewish leadership about? Compassion. Compassion. Let's call it rachamim, because we want to stick with the Hebrew words, because now we're in an authentic place. Sometimes English there's always something that can be lost in translation. Rachamim. And what do we know about rachamim so far? What has Rebbe Nachman done for us? What has he taught us thus far in the Torah?
That Hashem has rachamim.
Hashem has rachamim. God is a rachamon. God is compassionate. What else is God? What else do we know about God? What else do we know about rachamim? Something about rachamim takes you out of exile. Because the whole build-up of speaking about Isaiah and the Messianic unfolding and coming out of the exile was that the transition of the Jewish nation going from a despised people to a beloved people in the eyes of the world, and the kings of the world coming and acknowledging that the Jewish nation, and we see here in this chapter, the mission and the mandate of being a light to the nations, that transition will happen through compassion. God will take you out from the despised place through a compassionate shift, something. Ki mirachamam yenagem, for their merciful one will lead them out. And there we see about rachamim, there's something to do with it moves towards from a non-messianic place to a messianic place. There's like a transition through rachamim. That's very telling and very, very important to know.
Sounds like something to do with empathy.
Empathy. So we're going to see as we get deeper in the Torah. I don't want to, spoiler alert anything here, but we're going to see it's so deeply linked to empathy. And we'll see that we're going to name names like they say. We're going to see that the ultimate leader of the Jewish people is Moshe, is Moses. Moshe Rabbeinu. And we're going to see examples of how he was the ultimate compassionate human being. So says the Rebbe, you want Jewish leadership? This is the opening to Jewish leadership. Hainu mishu rachaman hu yachol liyos manig. You could be a leader if you have compassion. V'tzarach leida. Now the Rebbe says something interesting. He gives like a caveat to this. We need to know the following. Ech lisnag ima rachmanos. Wait a second. I thought just be compassionate. The Rebbe says no. In order to be a leader, you need compassion. But compassion is something that needs to be learned. Compassion is not something that, I'll just be compassionate to everybody. Compassion is something that you need to be careful with. What do you mean, be careful with compassion? I thought you should be compassionate to everybody.
Isn't rachamim more of like a tiferet kind of attribute as opposed to just pure chesed?
Yes.
It's like it has a balance somewhat of being So
Yes.
it's not just like give all, do all, whatever. It's also just like hold back.
It
at
does hold
times.
back. It's like a therapist. It hears what Chesed has to say. It hears what Gevura has to say, and it gives like something it's noite klape Chesed. It wants to give. It wants to. Gevura also wants to give. It just doesn't want to give to the wrong places. So, man. So here we're seeing an interesting thing because it looks like in the example that Rebbe Nachman's going to give, I might have thought that we're going to speak about Chesed. So let's see how the Rebbe unfolds this and see as we get deeper into the Torah if we can understand this. He gives a very classic example. That's why I mentioned all the thieves of the Louvre. Ki al rishoyim al roitzchem v'gazlonim oso l'rachem. Can you show compassion to an evil person? Can you show compassion to murderers? Can you show compassion to thieves? It's usher. For example, what would be a classic example of this? Let's say somebody, God forbid, is an alcoholic. So you tell that guy's like, give me some hit from the bottle. And you say, no. What do you mean? Well, why can't you be compassionate to me? And you say back, I am being compassionate. No, you have to be compassionate to the guy. He needs, I should be magnanimous and give him, compassion is not an easy thing. If a person houses a murderer, God forbid, that's not compassion. That's evil. This person is a menace, and more than a menace. This person is a danger to society. So how do we have compassion? Compassion is something that has to be applied in the right ways. Where do we have an example of this? Shaul HaMelech. The prophet told Shaul that he has to take out Amalek. And he had compassion, and from that came Haman. Which means a little too compassionate. A little too compassionate.
Blessed is Haman.
We can only talk about that on Purim. Adalo yada. Not lechatchila. Not lechatchila. Yes, Yosef.
What do we say about, because like in yesterday's shiur when you were talking about Parshas Noach, you said like Noach was a tzaddik for his time, but he wasn't like, Avram Avinu was someone who was a tzaddik for all generations, and we see that like Noach didn't daven for the Rishayim's time, but Avram Avinu davened for.
So maybe that's the right compassion, is that if they can do tshuva, but not that I should just, I'll let them just keep doing what you're doing. I should be really nice to you, and let all these murderers just, business as usual. You can't do that. You have to lock up a murderer.
But you still
That's
want the best
compassion.
for the murderer.
Pardon?
You still want the best for the murderer as an individual.
For his soul, I hope he does tshuva. I hope that he returns to Hashem. We hope that, it's people that sometimes go behind bars. Their lives can change in many ways. Many people will find God through them, and then spend a 30-year sentence trying to ask for forgiveness.
Prison should be like a shiva. Prisons.
There were many great rabbis that would go visit people in prison and give them chizzuk. He wouldn't open up the cell doors and let them out, you know what I'm saying? Like, they stayed in behind bars, but he would go and tell them, change your ways. Change your ways. I know you made mistakes. Adam also made mistakes. One of the things that the Torah is not, we don't hide the mistakes of our leaders. Ever notice that? We speak about them. King David's Tehillim talks about his mistakes. We speak about our mistakes.
Every single leader had a mistake.
That's right.
Jewish.
We own up to it. Yehuda and Tamar. Sadka mimeni. You were right and I was wrong. There's such an honesty. That's real leadership. Well, right now, that's a different part of the real leadership. We're speaking about the leadership of Rachamim, but you can't help but see when you see the leaders in the Torah. Whereas you see sometimes other groups, their leaders are just saints. They're saints. They can't do anything wrong. They're Pasha, saints. Whereas you see in the Torah that there's challenges. There's challenges. And that's the belief. That is real compassion, is that, believing after somebody fell that they can get back up and they can change their life. That's real compassion. But the compassion that involves, how can I guide this human being to improve their life and change themselves? Sort of this famous sort of Aryeh Levine of blessed memory was at Tzaddik of Yerushalayim, so he was one of the most famous ones who would go to the prisons and speak with inmates. He'd read Sefer, he'd come on a Monday and on Thursday, read Sefer Torah reading day, because you have to hear the Torah. And the Torah would start cleansing their heart. We're going to see a lot here in this Torah. Why? Why do all the bad things happen? Because we left the Torah. That theirs are what makes all the problems. And never the greatest compassion you could have on another human being is actually teaching them Torah. Giving them back a connection to Hashem. That's the greatest compassion as we're going to see later. That's what we're going to learn, that Moshe Rabbeinu is the ultimate leader, because Moshe Rabbeinu's whole world is giving us Torah. Ata reisa l'das, ki Hashem l'elokim, ein od milvado. And then the Rebbe gives examples. V'chein, mi she'einu yodea ech lisnad ima rachmanos, because if somebody doesn't know how to act with compassion, he hasn't figured out how to work in a compassionate way. As a yuchol l'rachem al tinoik shel arba yomim, then he's able to mistakenly try to be compassionate to a baby that's 4 days old and give them big people food. Look, this baby's crying, he's hungry. You want a piece of my Wagyu steak? That's evil. No, I like Wagyu steak, right? Which is interesting, but Nachman seems to be pointing out that compassion sometimes we mix up. We think, if something is good for me, it must be good for him. To think about that deeply. Compassion is not on you. That's right. What is the compassion this person needs? We seem to see the world through our lens. Like, I would like Wagyu. I would go back to the Homer Simpson episode of Simpson, when Homer, following Mishnah, so we remember Simpsons episodes, that Homer, on Marge's birthday, so, they always had these money things, whatever, with the family. That was Kiyadu, that was part of the show. But Homer had this thing, like he was into bowling, and he went to the bowling alley one day, and they had this ball behind the glass with all the lights, like shining on it, like mamish, probably like those articles in the Louvre. That these guys love it. Thieves. And the bowling ball, it was like this crazy expensive bowling ball. And Homer comes home one day, it's Marge's birthday, and he's like, I got you a present. And it's this giant heavy thing. She's like, wow, it's supposed to be heavy jewelry or something. She opens it up and it's a bowling ball. She's like, this wasn't about me, it's about you. I know, I promise it was for you, it's for you. And I engraved it, Homer. Like diamond, like engraving. She's like, if you don't want it, like I'm happy to take it from you, I'm no problem. What kind of compassion is that? That's just bad husband at the max. Because if you think that, you like this thing, well, the tinoik shel arba yomim. And by the way, there's a lot of ink that's got to be spilled on this, which is what's up with Rebbe Nachman's example here. He could have said a tinoik. He could have said a tinoik of Yom Echad. He could have said a tinoik of Sheva Yomim. What's a tinoik ben Arba Yomim? I'm not obviously wants something with that. A 4-day-old kid. Interesting. The Parpers L'Chochma has a Mahalach in Kabbalah, have a spheres, has the lower spheres, whatever. We'll leave that for the Kabbalists for now. Maybe when we get deeper into the Torah, we'll go back to that part. But there's something Rebbe Nachman wants here with the Tinoik Shel Arbe Yom. Litein loy Michael at Tzarech L'God, and you're going to give the kid Wagyu steak? You can't do that. That's evil. That's evil. V'loy l'kotten kazeh. You can't give that to a baby. Ki kotten, and then Rebbe Nachman kind of like doubles down on this. And he says something that I thought you would know. Ki kotten kazeh tzrichim lazunoi rak al yidei cholov davka. Because a baby like this, you got to give him mother's milk, obviously. Yeah. What else would I have thought? It's so funny that Rebbe Nachman said, a 4-day-old baby, you're going to try to give them, Wagyu steak. And everybody, of course you have to give them mother's milk. Why do you have to speak that out? I know that, Rebbe. I know that. Why is Rebbe Nachman? I'm only asking a question. This is day one of the new Torah, Rebbe. He needs cholav davka. Alkein, therefore, tzarech leida echlis nagim arachmanos, and therefore we need to know how to work and how to use compassion. Shilakotten kazet tzrichim l'rachem litein loy cholav daika, and he says it again, because a baby at this age you have to give him milk. He needs milk from the mother, specifically v'legadol, and for a big person, Michael tzarech loy, and a big person you have to give him big person food, Wagyu steak. V'chein al kol echad ve'echad, and I think this is what he means. And every single person, sricha l'rachem b'meh shetzarech loy. What's rachamim? When you give the person what they need on their terms, not on your terms. So what do we see so far, my dear friends? And a pleasure to have all of our friends around the world. B'siyat d'shmaya, it's wonderful when you can share with us where you're learning from in our Bible studies group, which country you're in, which part of the world. That kimitzein teitz the Torah, Dvar Hashem Yerushalayim, that from Tzion is the Torah, from Zion comes the Torah, but it goes forth to the entire world. The Torah is for all humanity, team humanity, b'siyat d'shmaya. We learned in the beginning of this Torah that Paro was dreaming at the end of 2 years of days. And Yosef was coming out of the dungeons and the pits 2 years to the day. And then we opened up Isaiah 49, yes, the same Isaiah 49 from Isaiah 53. And we spoke about that Isaiah's mission before he was assassinated was to help bring the nation of Israel to tshuva. And he felt that he failed at that mission, but his mission was not only to do that, but it was to speak about the ultimate redemption, that there would be redemption, and that the redemption would be that once and for all, the despised nation of Yisrael, in the end, will become beautiful once again.
Why the dip?
By the dip. That's very funny. By the dip. In other words, it's probably a good idea to make positive alliances with those that are connected to Torah now, when it's not so popular. In the end, when the whole world sees the beauty of God's Torah, and that everybody wants,
on the intent of set on the line.
That's right. Before bullion goes up to $1 billion an ounce for gold, it's on its way.
Is the Rabbi invested?
Everybody knows bullion is pashut. Crypto is a longer discussion.
Yeah.
Bullion is pashut.
What's it called? Bullion?
Bullion. Gold bullion.
Oh, gold bullion.
Bullion. Gold bars, Rabbi said.
Yeah. You got one bunch.
You can hide it in a mountain or whatever. Better off is to build your shul out of it.
You never have a house there.
Build your shul out of gold. There's a precedent for that. It's called the Beis HaMikdash, boys. And we learned that Yeshayahu, Isaiah the prophet's ultimate mission was to share about the messianic unfolding that will be in the end of days, that we are so much living in right now. All of the signs have come to pass. All the ends have passed. This is manish it, by the dip. And we should be zoicher aboisai, the siyach d'shmaya, to know that yes, ki mirachamon yenahagem, ultimately the compassionate one, the merciful one will lead us. And we began the journey of learning about Jewish leadership, of what it means to be a compassionate leader. It means to know how to place the compassion and know how to place the racham. And we should be zoicha mamish aboisai, to a gesunte winter, to have tremendous avos HaTorah, Rabbi, the next 5 months together, steigen together, growing together. And we should be zoicha mamish, mitzion teitz Torah Devar Hashem Yerushalayim, to share Torah with the entire world. And once again, the whole world will know, like in the great days of Shloimeh HaMelech, that Hashem is the Melech al Kol Haaretz, that the king, that all the no kings protests is sheker, because there is a king. It's called Hashem. Hashem is the king of all the kings. And we should be zoicha mamish to know that Hashem is the Melech al Kol Haaretz. B'yoyim hahu yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad yemali haaretz deya es Hashem kamayim liyam nechasim, that the whole world will know God. Like waters cover the sea floor, and we should be zoicha mamish. The Mashiach Tzidkenu, with the Binyan Beis HaMikdash, and the Kibbutz Goliath, all of our friends and family coming back home out of a long and bitter exile to once again see the return of the beauty and the stature of Am Yisrael. Ubechoy Spor, the nation that I will become beautified through, and we should see this once and for all. Amen. Amen. Amen.